7 months ago, I released a primer on RogSi, and since then, the deck has exploded in both popularity and in deck construction. And in this video, I'm going to give you some updates to the deck list from 7 months ago to get you caught up to now. Let's start with our mana base. Mount Doom has proven to be less effective than anticipated. It taps for only 2 colors, and while its second and third ability could theoretically be useful, especially with Silas being a legendary artifact, it's actually never once came up in any of my games. So, what could we replace it with? I have 2 recommendations. First, consider Mana Confluence. It taps for any color, which is what I opted for in my personal list. Alternatively, you can use Raucous Theater, the new-ish red-black surveil land for Murders of Karlov Manor. And I know, entering tapped isn't ideal for our turbo deck, but the surveillability is actually incredibly valuable. This both sculpts our draw and potentially fills our yard for our Underworld Breach turn, and additionally it's fetchable. Which brings us to our next change. Undercity Sewers in for Steam Vents out. When you think about the way that you use your fetches, untapped dual lands that don't cost any life are obviously at the top of the hierarchy, and shock lands are strictly worse. On top of that, due to the deck being very black mana heavy, we're often fetching for our bad lands and for our underground sea over Volcanic Islands. And then whenever we go down the chain, we're more likely again to fetch for the black shock lands over our Steam Vents, which makes it a pretty easy cut for our new Undercity Sewers. In my previous video, I included Dress Down, which is effective against creature-heavy decks by disabling Grand Abolisher effects, Docksides, and Thassa's Oracle. However, stopping others isn't our primary strategy, and Dress Down sometimes hinders our own win conditions, like Thassa's Oracle and Dockside Extortionist. So, I cut this card for a more proactive card that leads to a winning combo with Underworld Breach. Grinding Station. For those unfamiliar with this combo, here's how it works. With Grinding Station and Breach on the battlefield, you can sacrifice a mana-positive rock like Mana Crypt or Soul Ring to Grinding Station to mill yourself for 3 cards. Then, you can escape the artifact from your graveyard, which when it enters, it will untap your Grinding Station. Then you can retap your mana-positive rock for mana, sacrifice it to Grinding Station to mill yourself for another 3 cards, and continue the loop. This will profit you some colorless mana and net you even on cards in graveyard. You can continue this loop until you find a more beneficial card like Mox Opal for colored mana or Brain Freeze to really fill your yard. At that point, you can just continue your Breach turn as normal and continue to win the game. Modern Horizons 3 also introduced 2 excellent new cards, Necrodominance and Flare of Duplication. Necrodominance is a fantastic payoff, offering a, quote, fixed version of Necropotence, and while it has some limitations compared to its predecessor, it's still a powerful addition to the deck. Flare of Duplication has quickly become one of my personal favorite spells in this deck. It serves a both offensive and defensive role by copying counter spells to protect our own wins. It also has a very sneaky play. When an opponent casts an Ad Nauseam, we can use our Flare of Duplication to copy it, go as deep as we want to, and then counter the original and win ourselves afterwards. This play pattern is a lot of fun and can be really effective. So, what are the cuts for these new cards? Well, first is Wheel of Misfortune. It's our worst wheel, and I actually wanted to cut this card 7 months ago, but there wasn't a suitable replacement at the time. The second cut is the One Ring. While it's a good draw engine and offers the protection that's really valuable, the format has sped up, making the explosiveness of Necrodominance more valuable than the consistency of the One Ring. Which brings us to the last change of this update. Conqueror's Flail has been cut from more and more tournament lists lately. Its cost is a little steep, and especially whenever it's so easy to kill the creature that you go to equip it to, it's a pretty easy cut. So, what are our options for replacements? The first option is Tidal Barracuda. While it opens the game to complete chaos when you cast it at the wrong time, a full stop Grand Abolisher effect on your turn is really nice. And if all your opponents are low enough on resources, being fully tapped out, it's not the craziest thing to cast it on your opponent's instep before your turn and then just having a blast with flash speed everything and silence opponents. Just be careful with this one. The second option is a new card from bloomburrow, Valley Floodcaller. It is effectively a 3-mana Born Upon a Wind in this deck. Opening up the possibilities of breach combos on top of other players' wins makes it perhaps the most attractive option. Additionally, its untapped ability is sneakily useful sometimes as it enables Springleaf Run to be used in the aforementioned Grinding Station combo. Finally, there's Apple of Eden Isu Relic. This card is so fun to play. Taking the hand of other turbo decks or targeting control decks to protect your own wins is just such a fun and powerful game option. And with this one, it feels really possible to cast it and then get to untap it with it later and use it when the time is right. With these updates to the RogSi Turbo deck list, I hope you feel equipped to take on the current cEDH metagame. Thanks for watching.